I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Tuesday, August the 8th, brought to you in part by VitaFerm. Cattlemen rely on VitaFerm for performance that pays. VitaFerm quickly and naturally stimulates the digestive system with AObiotics and Amaferm. For more information, go to VitaFerm.com. Also, Beaver County Stockyards for the regular cattle auction here today on Tuesday. Expecting about 1,500 head, over 400 calves. Most of them will be new crop except for a small group of a little weaned 3-weight calves. Be just right to turn out on something there. About 1,000 head of yearlings. I got 5 loads of 850-pound steers off one deal. Got another 4 loads of 700 to 900-pound loads of steers, and about 3 loads of 7-weight heifers there. Very light run of cows. The biggest part of the cows will be about 30 young pairs that are going to be coming through, and then just some odd packer cows there. Beaver County Stockyards is tentatively thinking they're going to have a feeder cattle special with lots of yearlings coming up the Tuesday right after Labor Day Monday. I think we're going to have another feeder flash Beaver Clash coming up there. And that'll be a good time to have it right after Labor Day there, guys, so be expecting that. Packers in the red, and they don't like it. I mean, they just and that's the way it is with big corporates. You know, they just they don't see their way through stuff. They get into the red, they just start immediately making changes there. If our cattle producers, especially our cow-calf men and cattle feeders too, if they thought once they saw red ink they started running back the other way, that wouldn't work out very good, because there's lots of times that your cattle producers go through the bulk of the year knowing that they're going to finish in the red. Our row crop farmers do that all the time too, but packers just they don't want to do it. They've cut beef production significantly here over the last month or more. And looks like they're going to continue to do that. Now, what point do they get really tight on supplies of the product that they sell? Now, we think that they're tight on it now. We know that our cold storage is down, so they don't have a lot of that sitting in their coffers to sell out. But they'll just wait until they get extremely tight, and then they'll just pass on that higher price to the retailers. And that's likely going to happen when we get into the fourth quarter. We get into the fourth quarter, your retailers traditionally stock up big time, getting ready for their holidays. A lot of people are out and about during the holidays. They're going out to eat. They're having office parties and things like that. They're going to have a lot of demand for meat and some of your high quality stuff there. Well, as tight as we are on market ready supplies right now, it's going to get even worse whenever we get into the fourth quarter. Now, a lot of people think we have an opportunity to work your fat cattle direct market, cash market in your 5 area up well over $2. I have to see it to believe it, guys. Now, we have seen fat cattle bring $2, but it's only been in Yankton, South Dakota, and a few other small brick and mortar fat cattle auctions to really say that it happened. And it's happened on loads of cattle there. And there's been cattle that's brought back over $2, of course, selling them on the grid and things like that. But to get a direct fat cattle negotiated price out of your 5 area feeding region of over $2, I'd sure have to see it happen. It's just it's too hard for them to gain a buck or two, and they give the buck or 2 and 3 back easier than they do the scratch and claw to gain a buck. I don't know how in the world it's ever going to happen without any leverage, unless these few fat cattle sellers get together, and they can't let them abuse them like they do. And of course they're following the Packers playbook. We saw that come out more as we looked into the trade. Once we got the information from USDA back, we looked into the trade that happened last week, and we saw that on on the over 80%, which your packers can put those cattle in anywhere they want to put them. It's not like anybody's going to come back and check on that to verify that, because the USDA just doesn't do that. They barely leave their homes to put out those reports anymore, so they're not going to be running out doing any checks on that. But in the over 80% steers last week negotiated out of the 5-area feeding region, the range was from 178 to 190. Who's going to sell fats that are going to come back over 80% at 178? Nobody is. But your packers can put them in anywhere they want to, and that's where they put them in into mandatory price reporting. In fact, there were only 76 head that brought 178. Really not even enough to really put into the range there, but that's what it was. There were 1,228 head that sold at the 190. And then we saw, 10,600 head sell at the 180, which is what the Southern Plains got, and that is $1 to $2 higher. And the guys in the Southern Plains had to really scratch and claw and avoid some pitfalls there to get that, because we saw your packers out trying to buy pens of cows for 179, more than the guy even wanted for the cattle, just so they could set the price there. But there was over 31,000 cattle that sold at 188, which is where the Northern Plains sold, so your weighted average was quite a bit higher. But box beef cutout values have struggled, and your packers can pretty much put those where they want to. They're just going to have to put their mind to it and do it, and then likely that higher price is going to be passed on to our retailers, end users, and then it's going to hurt demand, because people are already having trouble paying for the things that they need every day, let alone when you raise your beef prices significantly, which is probably going to happen. It's going to hurt demand, but that's just what happens, guys. Let's talk about your board for Monday to open the week. August live cattle futures down $1.20 at 179.70. October down 147 at 181.42. Why were your futures down on Monday? Because they were up big on Fridays, about the only reason you could say. Your back months on your live cattle were down 55 cents to down 127. August feeder cattle had big gains last week, took most of it back up on Monday, even though your grains continued to be weak. But August feeder cattle down 255 at 246.97. September down 257 at 250.87. Your back months are all down big, from $1.77 to down 262. December corn still weak after losing a lot of ground last week, down 1.5 cents a bushel at 4.95 3/4. November new crop beans down 31.25 cents at 13.02. Kansas City hard red winter wheat for September actually got back some of the over 100 points that it lost last week, up 17.25 cents at 769 3/4. Weighted average on last week's negotiated fed cattle sales in your 5-area feeding region totaled up to be 68,600 in the 5-area. A lot more than what we thought, because we did have that late Friday afternoon trade, which wouldn't have been on any USDA government report over the weekend anyway, but we didn't have that on our last visit. But that 68,600 was significantly more than the previous week of 41,400, but not as much as the same week a year ago of 84,700. Overall, the Northern Plains sold steady to $3 higher at 188 for the most part live, and also steady to $3 higher dressed at 295 for the most part. So good gains in the Northern Plains. Southern Plains had gains too, $1 to $2 higher, 180 for the most part in Texas and Kansas. Kansas did see some significant trade, or fairly significant delivered price, 184 to 185.5. That's a good way for those northern plants to dip down into Kansas, cream some of the best cattle that they have down there, and then they don't disturb the weighted average that all your formulas are built off of. They buy those cattle delivered, pay them well to haul them up there 184 to 185 and a half, giving them a premium for those cattle. That's in the Packers playbook if you go back and look at that. Your range and price on fat steers and heifers last week, like I said, 178 to 190. And that was basically steady with the previous week, but we sold higher within that range. Your weighted average on live steers last week in the 5 area was 186.70, up $1.89 compared to the previous week's weighted average. Dress sales 292 to 298. That was $3 to $4 higher. And your weighted average on dress steers 295.14 in the 5 area. That was up 151. Pretty significant gains there, and if we could continue to do that, maybe we'll get close to the $2, but it just seems like it's such a struggle to do. Nationwide, we sold 82,800 negotiated. Of those, 26% of them were for the 2 to 4 week delivery. Negotiated grid was 46,400. Forward contracting was 23,000, and formula sales 267,800 head. Of the 4 of the 5 areas that we do get information from, Iowa sold negotiated last week 31,800. That's not far from what they normally do. And how they can keep plucking Iowa dry every single week and they still have more cattle is unbelievable to me. But they do sell so many more negotiated in Iowa than they do any of the other areas. But they've just continually hitting on them. Nebraska only had negotiated sales of 23,100. Kansas only 9,300, and Texas only 4,400. Box beef cutout values. Your weighted average on all of last week's cutouts on a choice basis was 302.97. A weighted average. That weighted average was 34 cents lower than the previous week's. And on select cuts, all of last week's on the weighted average was 277.92, down 41. With a choice select spread just over $25 and a light run of 543 loads of cuts, grinds, and trimmings. Monday's box beef cutout value was down 30 cents on the choice at 301.49. Selects was down 147 at 275.01, so still struggling quite a bit. Talk about what else is going on. Your night latch group, that's Andy Cunningham in Western Oklahoma. He wants you to call him and learn more about gross margin policies. He's got a way that you can hedge your corn and your cattle in one easy policy. He can show you how to do it. Hang on to your investment. Go to nightlatch.net. Talk about your feeder cattle market, your real-time index on DV auction based on a 700 to 899 pound steer, averaging around 800 pounds. Cash auction steer there, up through your middle 12 states. 244.54, down 61 cents compared to the end of last week. Your big sales on Monday, Oklahoma National Stockyards in Oklahoma City, 6,500 head. Feeders were mostly steady. Steer calves were mostly steady. Heifer calves were $2 to $4 higher. Stick out sale in Oklahoma City was 129 heifers. They averaged 773 at 243 and a quarter. Marked them fancy. How about Joplin Regional Stockyards? They underestimated almost 1,000. They were only expecting 4,500 head and they ended up with 5,400. The market was $2 to $8 higher for the most part, except for lightweights under 550 pounds, and both steers and heifers were $10 to $15 higher. Very active on them. Joplin Regional Stockyards in Carthage, Missouri was also our national beef wire stick out sale of the day. Look at this automated market report through Cattle Market Central. You see 274 head of 4-weight steers, average 457 with a weighted average price of 294.57. 471 head of 5-weight steers, average 562, average price 271.80. 844 head of 6-weight steers, averaged 644 pounds with a weighted average price of $263.77. 739 head of 7-weight steers in Joplin averaged 751, weighted average price $249.15, and 462 head of 8-weight steers averaged 818 pounds and $244.35. Look at some heifer weights. 297 head of 4-weight heifers averaged 451 pounds, weighted average price $257.90. 543 head of 5-weight heifer calves averaged 556, average price $248.42. 292 head of 6-weight heifers averaged 642 pounds and $240.97, and 533 head of 7-weight heifers, Joplin Regional Stockyards, weighted average weight 745, weighted average price $226.52. Give you some individual quotes from around. How about Algona Livestock Auction in Algona, Iowa? They're doing a good job there. And look at the Bonham steers. 120 of them weighed 964 and bring 232 and a quarter. Good quote for them. Western Oklahoma Livestock Auction near Clinton, Oklahoma. They sell 139 steers on Monday. They weighed 719 pounds, individual quote, at $266.10. Good quote for there. How about Callaway Livestock Center in Kingdom City, Missouri? They sell 64 head of heifers. They average 604 pounds at $270 and a quarter, like a steer price. But the most impressive quote that I saw anywhere on Monday, and your Macrocin No BS top quote for the day, come out of Russell Livestock Market in Russell, Iowa. 65 steers weighed 830 pounds at $256.85. And that's your feeder flash for Tuesday.